I'm sure you know who this gentleman is. Anybody want to offer that? Well done, well done. Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, the story of success, examines the factors that contribute to success, extreme success. He repeatedly points to examples such as the Beatles and Bill Gates and the Canadian ice hockey team being the product of application of a notional 10,000 hours of effort to achieve greatness. Well, I think I'm great at lunch. I've worked 22 years, which is an average of 48 weeks per year, 5-day weeks, 10 hours per day. I've been paid for 52,800 hours, and I've had lunch on every one of those days. Some have been at my desk, some all afternoon, and frankly, some well into the evening. And some days there have even been more than one lunch. I'm looking at some of you who might have been there with me. Therefore, taking into account the organising, preparing and getting into and having a chat and leaving, I think I've been paid an average of 2 hours a day for lunch since then, which makes a total of 10,560 hours. So I'm genius at lunch. Lunch genius. There is, of course, an art to lunch. We're all having lunch today, I'm sure you're aware. Both physiological, psychological, sociological, mathematical, gastronomical, geographical, and many other cals indeed. It's a business tool that, in the right hands, plays a valuable role in keeping many people out of the office when they could be keeping many people out of office for hours while they should be messing around in the office. Call it some kind of food management. I had a client once, David Indo knows him very well, called Duncan. Let's call him Duncan because that's his name. He didn't eat breakfast. David will remember this. He wasn't dieting, and he quite liked to drink in the evening, and in the morning he would generally consume a great deal of coffee, which meant that if you were presenting, you could pretty much write off anything except a bollocking at around 11 o'clock. That is until we discovered fruit and cakes. Cakes on their own didn't really work, and he didn't really touch enough biscuits to make a difference. But a combination of a fruit platter and a generous patisserie worked wonders. In fact, I started to know a Pavlovian response to meetings when we had catered quite well. I think it turned the whole of the French team around. This isn't the French team. This is where I have often been found for lunch. The title of my presentation today, my talk today, is Poacher turned Gamekeeper. As Jim mentioned, I've been at Sony now for just under 2 years. I looked, well, maybe I should explain how we've got to this title in a second, but I looked up what Poacher turned Gamekeeper actually means, because it's a bit ambiguous. Someone whose job seems to involve working against the person who is now doing the job which they did before. Sorry about that, Rupert. So, hi team, this is OMD down here. So one thing I've learnt about public speaking with today's experience is to clearly choose your title carefully. The very wonderful Rupert Holroyd told me not to fuck this one up because it would reflect badly on OMD. But at the same time, giving me this title has hardly helped me, or more to the point, helped them help me. In the great words of Michael Caine, when you take charge, you're on your own. So I think the biggest challenge and the biggest change to becoming a client is that sense of responsibility. When you're asked to speak at the IAA, it's normally, I think I'm in Japan, but I'll do the next one. And then the next one comes around and you're phoned up, asked for your photograph and biog with a moment to spare, and suddenly asked, what is your subject? And that was all I could think of at the time. So hopefully I'll do the title justice. You can only decide. So I think that moving to a client has been quite an interesting change for me. As an agency person, I always felt that my job was to provide a strong point of view and some kind of action to get things done. And now I have to make decisions that really matter to us as a brand. It's a subtler difference. It's not necessarily harder. It's not necessarily easy, it's just different. And I'm not really sure that's very helpful, so I'll try and explain a bit more about that in a second. What I do find very interesting is working in a technology company, and Sony is fascinating, and I'm just hoping that I'm very lucky and that I've joined and that my timing is not particularly off. You're familiar with this gentleman? Anybody? This is, well, I know Jim knows. This is Sir Howard Stringer, actually the chairman and CEO, president of Sony Corporation, based in a number of locations around the world. Actually born in Cardiff. Actually born in the same hospital as I was born, 27 years before me. I met him a couple of times and we've talked about it. He does look a bit like my dad. Actually. Oh Christ, is that what I'm going to look like? Anyway, so Howard Stringer, he's actually a very inspirational person, and certainly as Sony as a company, it was probably quite inspiring to many non-Japanese people that a foreigner was chosen to head such a prestigious organization, and there were good reasons for it. But currently we're in, as you can probably understand from the various news wires, and there's more news today, and Jonathan's kindly given me even more news of tomorrow. Is it tomorrow's Bloomberg? Yeah, thank you. So yes, great to get a whole load more news just before you're about to give a presentation. Anyway, it truly is the best of times and the worst of times. And at Sony we have had quite a year. The earthquake and subsequent tsunami devastated northeast Japan and shocked the world. It damaged many of our factories and the lives of our workers and their families. A month later, we were hacked. The PlayStation Network and Sony Entertainment Network was suspended. If anyone knows this man, I think it's a man. Clearly, it's not the best of times with regards to the economy. I don't need anyone to understand that further. What you might not know is that the Japanese yen remains pretty strong, which does affect us quite substantially, particularly with our manufacturing that's based there. And to top that, well, did any other manufacturer have their warehouse burnt down in the summer? No. I don't know if anyone lives in Enfield, and anyone knows, but we're after them. So we've had more hacking. I'm not sure it's the same gentleman. And of course, we've also been hit substantially by floods in Thailand. So it has been quite a year for us. But there's been some other good things, I suppose. We've restructured. Those 90 million paying subscribers to the PlayStation Network and SEN have pretty much all returned, which says a great deal, I think, for the strength of the offering that we have. And certainly the rollout of SEN to date, hundreds of thousands of people are trying it and are using it. We have great faith in Sony Entertainment Network for the future. It's quite a good service if you haven't tried it. We've stopped using Love Film at home. We've launched our tablet, which has had some good reviews. We've also bought the rest of Sony Ericsson, which I think is very interesting. And when you read sort of company reports, our strategy around the 4 different screens is, for us, a very exciting future about the connectivity and interconnectivity of devices. Basically, that means that you can be watching something on your phone or your tablet on the way home from work, and you walk in your house and it's almost magically goes to the next device. And we think that as far as a sort of function and functionality, that's very exciting for us. We think that might even create a new terminology which we're calling throw, which is your ability to throw content from one device to another. You might remember 30, 40 years ago we came up with time-shifted viewing, which was something that happened in the 70s. So, it's all possible. And it's certainly a time of change, and certainly a time of change for us, and change in itself brings a certain uncertainty. And that also brings a change in people's confidence. And the market is not confident. And I'm sure that lots of people within Sony, with restructuring and the changes that have happened, have felt a lack of confidence. Certainly, I haven't sensed any particular lack of confidence in this room today after a couple of glasses of wine. But this has had a dramatic effect on our available budgets. But that's given us the opportunity to think about an awful lot of things. It's asked us to look at our marketing communications model, the Sony Estate, and by that I mean all of the different platforms and services that we have available to us, the way that we work with our agencies, the way that we expect our agencies to support us and challenge us, and certainly the way that we're structured internally and the way that we organise ourselves is changing, and how we manage our internet, our IP. Media used to be pretty straightforward, but the old ways have gone. And the presentations that I've done over the last 10 years on there's going to be change, well, change has happened. And these old ways have pretty much gone forever, I think. My job, as I said, used to be about finding ways to connect with consumers on behalf of clients, to represent the arts of media planning, inform my clients of opportunities, and work within a comms team comprising of the agency and the client and media company, etc., etc. And I still do this, but I do this from within Sony, and certainly much closer within the comms team, which from a personal level is something that I really enjoy. So I think that we've still got quite a lot to be optimistic about. And I've always been optimistic, as many of you who know me will know. So I think with my role, I think there's a number of challenges, hello Annika, and I think that these need to be faced and solutions found. So for today, for the benefit of you guys, I've picked up on 5, and I'll sort of take you through those. The first one is Sony United. I think trying to leverage the value of Sony United, winning as one Sony, I think is on some of our corporate material. Sony is quite special in its position of having a business and knowledge in the whole of the entertainment chain, and we're starting at getting better at using that for the benefit of the business. The James Bond franchise, the World Cup, which was shot in 3D and distributed around the world, Wimbledon, which we sponsor and film and broadcast the final in 3D, are great examples of where different parts of the business are working together to deliver a more premium entertainment experience, and I think we're getting better at doing this. For my part, this requires the traditional media, international media managers' abilities of being a preacher, politician, policeman, and occasional marriage guidance counsellor. I'm sure if any of you work in managing any kind of network, you'll know that sometimes you have to treat people with kid gloves, and sometimes you have to really sing from the rooftops about what needs to be done that's right, and sometimes you just have to collar people when they're doing it wrong, and sometimes you have to patch together the relationships that have inevitably broken down by a lack of understanding of what it is that you want. The second thing is evaluating and utilising the Sony Estate, which I talked about, which across all the channels and touch points. And what we've discovered that there really isn't anything off the peg for this, and that very few of in this room will have any practical experience of the Sainsbury formula. No, a lot of blank faces, one nodding over there, it's nice to see. Oh, there's 2. Well, God bless Alan Copage. Another load of blank faces. I'm not even sure he's on the internet. Only a fraction of our estate is commercialised, I think, through the PlayStation Network. And one evaluation that we've been working with OMD on recently has put our estate value at possibly over 20 million euros over Europe a month. I think there's opportunities to utilise it better, maybe not sell it off, but in content to enhance the consumer experience and enjoyment and develop more engagement. I can see many benefits, real benefits. So you can prove what you do by creating simple means to discuss, share, deploy, evaluate across the group. A real currency is what we're looking to try and do, but this is truly complicated work. I think we need real big ideas and probably lots of little ones as well that are rooted in real insight. We need to have the sort of philosophy that got us here in the first place, the sort of vision and belief that gave us PlayStation and Walkman, etc. We don't need any more research telling us that people are playing lots of games on social networks or that mobile has finally arrived. We're looking for some massive, powerful, fundamental truths, human truths, that will guide our behaviour across the whole of the region. And I think that surrounding ourselves with clever people with imagination and a curious nature and combining them with the information that we have all around us will give us everything that we need. We work closely with some great people and some great agencies. As I said, some of my team are here, hi. And I'm sure that we're not that easy to work with. In fact, I think we need to be careful that we don't wear them all out and lose that verve and swagger that excited us when we first employed them. I think we need to express our big ideas throughout our products and services, and the little ones too. And the Sony experience can't be isolated to marketing communications alone, but everywhere throughout the company. Incentivization is a tough topic to tackle in what is only a 20 to 25 minute time slot. But I think the role of an international agency is changing rapidly. It was always going to have to. There are also lots of smaller businesses which are trying to get a slice of the cake. How they make their money has been put under greater scrutiny, and Sony is no exception. We expect transparency, that's a deal breaker. We expect partnership, which in tough times can put a lot of pressure on the relationships. That's what a partnership really is. But flogging an agency to within an inch of their life is really not good business. Just a few months ago, I've been involved in media agency reviews for Europe, for Search, Asia Pacific with Sony Electronics, and most recently Sony Ericsson. I'd like to think in all of these cases, cost was a factor, but not the whole thing. I think that's really important for us. I think we're valuing great original thinking, organisation and network strength, and above all, people. I think that's an incentive in itself. I think finding a balance between ambition and pragmatism is a real constant. When you've only got a certain amount of money, pressures of the business and requirements from the agency is certainly a huge challenge. Collaboration. Managing all of these partnerships and relationships across the agencies and sister companies requires patience and understanding, sometimes a firm hand and sometimes a few punches as well. We need to be excellent at retail and all its forms, and we need ongoing engagement platforms to have a social mix in our messaging. And we need relevancy and resonance in everything we do, which comes back to preacher, politician, policeman, and marriage guidance counsellor. I've always loved that. It worked well in an agency, and it works well now. When I worked at Nike, I was asked to be the Nike client within the agency. The trouble with him is that he's become a client. It used to be the term of reference, which was condescending at best, and an accusation of misplaced loyalties bordering on treason at the worst. From early in my career, I've already understood that the client isn't always right, but the client is always the client. In fact, the client is most usually wrong and misguided, and the role of the agency is to encourage and educate to their way of thinking. So frankly speaking, we probably need a few more clients everywhere to produce the work that really works for consumers. In my case, maybe I'm just more of a gamekeeper anyway, using my years of infiltration to the benefit of the Sony Corporation. Whatever the case, I think my job and the job of the agencies, partners and the like, is to bring ideas to bear in the form of experiences for the benefit of Sony's consumers that makes their life better. There's no greater sense of responsibility working on the client side. It's something I enjoy right now. I'm not sure I would have been able to do it 5 years ago. Maybe that's why so many clients can be complete and utter. Well, I'm not going to say that. Certainly clients have to have a sense of perspective. Anyway, almost every brand now has to reevaluate its position and plans for the future. This is exciting, and this is hard. We haven't got the money we had to spend. I don't think anybody has the money they had to spend. But as a technology company and an entertainment group, we are the epicenter of change, and that is going on. And I think we can profit from that, I believe. Which means we have to think really, really hard. I think it means we have to be bold, and I think we have to be brave. Trevor Edwards is the head of brand and category for Nike. He used to say, without risk, there is no genius. Or maybe It's just no lunch genius, and I'm up for that. I want to thank you for listening. I want to particularly thank Laura Tilley from TAG for helping me put this together at quite short notice with the videos. Thank you, make sure they work. That's great. Thank you very much, Katie Copeland and Rebecca Powell from OMD for their constant support. Thank you, CNN, for sponsoring this event, and thank you, the IA, for putting us on. Thank you very much for listening.